the Stoic Guide to Happiness: Finding Joy in a World Full of Chaos. In a world where chaos seems to rule, where unpredictability and uncertainty grip the hearts of many, we often hear the call for happiness, fleeting moments of joy, as elusive as they are brief. But what if happiness is not something we chase, but something we choose, something we cultivate within ourselves, regardless of external turmoil? This is not a promise of a life without pain or hardship, but rather a path that leads us to joy through the mastery of self. We stand on the edge of this path, and to take the first step, we must understand the core of what leads us astray: our destructive emotions. In a world filled with chaos, distractions, and uncertainty, finding true happiness may feel impossible. But what if I told you that the answers you've been searching for, the path to lasting joy, are already within your grasp? This isn't about wealth, fame, or success. It's about mastering your mind, controlling your emotions, and thriving in a world that never stops testing you. If you're ready to discover ancient wisdom that can change your life, then stay with us. And if you're finding value in these teachings as we go along, remember to hit the like button. It lets us know you're with us on this journey. Let's dive in. The chaos within. When we speak of chaos, we often look outward at the world, at society, at the uncontrollable events that surround us. But the truth is, the most destructive chaos exists not in the outside world, but within ourselves. We are the source of our own suffering, not because of the circumstances we face, but because of how we respond to them. The world may present us with challenges, hardships, and uncertainties, but it is our internal reaction, our emotions, our impulses, our lack of control that multiplies the chaos. Consider how anger consumes us when we feel wronged. In that moment, we are not fighting the injustice, we are fighting ourselves, allowing rage to dictate our actions. Fear operates in much the same way, paralyzing us in the face of uncertainty, preventing us from moving forward because we are too focused on what might happen. These emotions turn our minds into battlegrounds, robbing us of peace and clarity. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, made it clear men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. It is not the events themselves that bring chaos into our lives, but how we interpret and react to those events. The same storm that causes panic in one person can bring calm to another who has mastered their inner world. This is the essence of the Stoic belief: the external world is neutral, and it is our internal world, our thoughts, perceptions, and emotions that turns it into chaos or peace. The chaos within arises from our attachment to things we cannot control. We expect life to go our way. We want others to act according to our desires. We wish for events to unfold in a manner that suits us. But when reality does not align with our expectations, frustration, anger, and disappointment consume us. The Stoic understands that these attachments are the root of internal chaos. The more we cling to what is beyond our control, the more we suffer. The path to inner joy. The path to inner joy begins with a radical shift in how we view the world and ourselves. Instead of seeking control over external circumstances, we learn to focus on controlling ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions. This is the key to Stoic wisdom, understanding that our true power lies in mastering what is within us, not in manipulating what is outside of us. Self-control is at the heart of this journey. Without it, we are slaves to our passions, our whims, and the unpredictable nature of life. When we lack control over ourselves, we surrender our happiness to the winds of fortune. But when we cultivate self-discipline, we reclaim that happiness by no longer allowing the chaos of the world to dictate our inner state. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, reminds us you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The strength he speaks of is not physical might, but the inner resilience that comes from mastering our own mind. It is this strength that leads to joy, not the temporary, shallow pleasure that comes from external achievements, but a deep, lasting contentment that is unshaken by life's unpredictability. To walk this path, we must also develop fortitude, the ability to endure hardships without complaint. Life will test us. It will present challenges that seem insurmountable. pain that feels unbearable, and losses that cut deep. But the Stoic does not seek to avoid these things, for they are an inevitable part of existence. Instead, the Stoic endures, knowing that suffering is not an enemy, but a teacher. Seneca, another revered Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. To endure hardship is to grow stronger. And with each trial we build the kind of inner joy that no external event can take away." This joy is not fragile, it is a quiet, resilient contentment that we carry within us, even when the world seems to fall apart around us. True joy, according to Stoic thought, is rooted in understanding what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. It is found in the practice of living in alignment with our values, no matter the external circumstances. We do not depend on others to make us happy, nor do we rely on material possessions or status for fulfillment. Instead, we find joy in the simple act of mastering ourselves and facing life with courage and grace. By embracing self-control and fortitude, we discover that joy does not come from the absence of chaos, but from our ability to remain steady within it. We are no longer at the mercy of the world's storms because we have learned to create calm within ourselves. This is the essence of the Stoic path, to find joy not by changing the world, but by changing ourselves. Overcoming destructive emotions. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the belief that destructive emotions, those that distort our judgment, cloud our reason, and lead us astray, are the primary obstacles to inner peace and true happiness. Anger, fear, envy, and jealousy are not just reactions to the outside world, they are powerful forces that, if left unchecked, dominate our inner world and destroy our ability to live with clarity and purpose. The Stoics understood that emotions are not inherently bad. In fact, emotions are natural and unavoidable aspects of human life. What makes certain emotions destructive is when they become excessive, unregulated, and control our actions. Instead of simply feeling anger or fear, we become consumed by them, allowing them to dictate how we respond to situations. This, in turn, creates suffering and chaos within us, making it impossible to think rationally or to act in accordance with our true values. The nature of destructive emotions. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wisely pointed out that emotions like anger and envy don't just harm others, they harm us first. He said, "Anger is like a stone cast into a wasp's nest," warning that once we allow it to take root, it spirals out of control, leading to consequences far worse than the original offense. When we let anger or fear rule us, we lose our freedom. We become slaves to our passions, tossed around by every event, big or small, that triggers those emotions. Fear is another destructive emotion that plagues many of us. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of loss, these are all chains that hold us back from living fully. Stoics remind us that fear is often irrational, born from imagining worst-case scenarios that may never happen. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Fear paralyzes us, keeping us trapped in a state of inaction and preventing us from taking meaningful steps forward." Envy and jealousy, too, are deeply destructive emotions. They blind us to our own progress and success, making us focus on the achievements of others. When we let envy take hold, we rob ourselves of gratitude for what we already have. In letters to Lucilius, Seneca urged, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Envy shifts our attention away from our own growth and causes unnecessary suffering, because no matter how much we gain, we will always feel lacking if we are comparing ourselves to others. Mastering emotions through reason. The Stoic approach to overcoming destructive emotions is not about suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it is about understanding them, recognizing their roots, and mastering them through the use of reason. The Stoics believed that emotions are directly tied to our judgments and beliefs about the world. If we believe that external events control our happiness, then we will naturally experience frustration, fear, or anger when things don't go our way. But if we shift our perspective, we can reclaim control over our emotions. Epictetus emphasized that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This shift requires us to constantly examine the beliefs that give rise to our emotions. If we believe that being insulted by someone is a grave injustice, we will naturally feel angry. But if we recognize that another person's actions are outside of our control, and that their insult has no real power to diminish our self-worth, the anger will lose its hold on us. To master our emotions, we must practice what the Stoics called prohairesis, or the exercise of free will and deliberate choice. Instead of reacting impulsively, we learn to pause, reflect, and choose how we want to respond. This practice cultivates a sense of calm and allows us to make decisions based on reason rather than emotional impulse. Over time, this builds resilience, the ability to face life's challenges without being swept away by emotional storms, transforming negative emotions into strength. Another powerful Stoic strategy is not just to overcome destructive emotions, but to transform them into sources of strength. Stoicism teaches us that the very emotions we fear can be turned into opportunities for growth. Fear, for example, can be a sign of what we need to confront and overcome. When we face our fears head-on, we grow stronger, more capable, and more resilient. Similarly, anger can be a catalyst for self-reflection. Instead of allowing anger to drive us toward revenge or destructive behavior, we can use it as a moment to examine our expectations and desires. Why did this situation make me angry? What expectation did I have that was not met? By understanding the root of our anger, we can adjust our perspective and learn to approach similar situations with more patience and clarity in the future. The Stoics also believe that suffering is not inherently bad, it can be a teacher. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When we encounter difficulties, the emotional responses we experience, frustration, despair, anger, can become the very fuel that drives us toward greater self-mastery. Instead of running from hardship, we face it, and in doing so, we transform our suffering into strength. This is how we build fortitude, a core Stoic virtue. The importance of emotional detachment. Detachment is a crucial concept in overcoming destructive emotions. It does not mean that we stop caring about life, but rather that we stop being overly attached to things we cannot control. As humans, we often cling to outcomes, to people, and to circumstances in ways that set us up for disappointment and emotional turmoil. But the Stoic teaches us that it is in letting go of these attachments that we find true freedom. Epictetus said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." When we stop demanding that life conform to our desires, we free ourselves from the destructive emotions that arise when reality does not meet our expectations. This kind of emotional detachment is not cold indifference, it is a form of inner peace that comes from accepting life as it is, without trying to force it to be something else. The joy of mastery. Ultimately, the Stoic guide to overcoming destructive emotions leads us not just to freedom from suffering, but to a deeper, more lasting joy. This is a joy that comes from knowing we are in control of ourselves, no longer at the mercy of our passions. It is a joy rooted in the confidence that, no matter what happens, we have the strength and resilience to endure it without losing our inner peace. This joy is not the fleeting excitement of external success or the temporary relief of material comforts. It is a steady, enduring contentment that arises from within, built on the foundation of self-mastery. As we learn to overcome destructive emotions, we clear the way for this joy to flourish, allowing us to live with purpose, clarity, and fulfillment, even in a world full of chaos. In overcoming destructive emotions, we do more than free ourselves from suffering. We open the door to a life of deep, unshakable happiness, a happiness that is within our control, regardless of the storms that rage around us. The Stoics' Quiet Joy. The Stoics' understanding of joy is unlike the loud, exuberant happiness we often see celebrated in the world today. It is not based on external success, material wealth, or the fleeting pleasures of life. Instead, it is a quiet, steady, an unshakable joy that comes from within, a joy that is cultivated through inner mastery, self-discipline, and a deep alignment with nature's order. This is not a joy that comes and goes with circumstances. It is a constant, a state of being that endures even in the face of life's hardships. The nature of quiet joy. For the Stoics, joy eudaimonia is not the result of chasing after pleasure or avoiding pain, but the byproduct of living a virtuous life. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, taught that true joy comes from acting in accordance with our nature as rational beings, not from the external things that most people pursue. He wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." In other words, joy is not something we find out there, in achievements or possessions. It is something we cultivate within, through our thoughts, actions, and attitude toward life. This quiet joy is deeply connected to the Stoic idea of living according to nature, which means living in harmony with both the natural world and our own rational nature. When we align ourselves with what is natural, accepting what we cannot control, and acting with virtue in the things we experience a profound sense of inner peace. This peace gives birth to joy, a joy that is independent of external circumstances. Joy through self-mastery. Self-mastery is central to the Stoics' quiet joy. The Stoic believes that the only true source of joy comes from mastering oneself, controlling one's impulses, emotions, and desires. In a world that constantly tries to pull us in 1,000 different directions, this mastery brings a sense of freedom and fulfillment that nothing external can provide. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When we learn to govern our emotions, desires, and thoughts, we are no longer slaves to the whims of fortune. This gives us a sense of power and control over our own lives, which is a deep source of joy. In mastering ourselves, we also learn to appreciate the present moment. The Stoic joy is rooted in the here and now, not in some distant future or in the hope of things going our way. As Seneca taught, the greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. The Stoic does not wait for joy to come from external sources. They cultivate it from within by living in accordance with their values and exercising their own virtue in every situation. The joy of virtue. The Stoics' quiet joy is also inseparable from virtue, which the Stoics regarded as the highest good. Virtue for the Stoics meant living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. When we act virtuously, we experience a deep sense of satisfaction and joy that cannot be taken away by external events. This is because, as the Stoics believed, virtue is the only thing that truly belongs to us. Everything else, wealth, health, relationships, is subject to the whims of fate. But our character, our ability to act with virtue, is always within our control. Marcus Aurelius summed this up perfectly when he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When our thoughts are aligned with virtue, we experience a kind of joy that is immune to external circumstances. This joy comes from knowing that no matter what happens around us, we have done what is right, we have acted in accordance with our values, and we have stayed true to our principles." Joy in acceptance. Another profound source of the Stoics' quiet joy is acceptance of life's unpredictability and impermanence, acceptance of the fact that we cannot control most things in the world. For the Stoic, joy is not found in resisting the inevitable or wishing for things to be different, but in fully accepting reality as it is. This acceptance does not mean passivity. It means understanding the limits of our control and focusing our energy on what we can change, our own thoughts and actions. Epictetus taught that peace and joy come from aligning our desires with reality, not trying to force reality to match our desires. He said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This attitude of acceptance allows the Stoic to remain joyful, even when facing hardship, because they are not attached to outcomes or external circumstances. Their joy comes from within, from knowing they are living in accordance with nature and virtue, no matter what the world throws their way. Joy amid suffering. One of the most remarkable aspects of Stoic joy is that it can exist even in the midst of suffering. The Stoics did not deny that life is filled with pain, loss, and hardship. But they believe that suffering can be transformed into strength, and that even in the darkest times we can find joy by choosing how we respond to our circumstances. Marcus Aurelius, who faced immense personal and political challenges as Roman emperor, found joy not in avoiding suffering but in embracing it as a part of life. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For the Stoic, obstacles are not sources of despair, but opportunities for growth. The very difficulties we face are the fuel that strengthens our character and deepens our capacity for joy. In this way, Stoic joy is not fragile. It is not dependent on things going well or on the absence of pain. It is a joy that can coexist with suffering, because it is grounded in the understanding that we have the power to choose how we interpret and respond to life's challenges. This inner resilience is what allows the Stoic to maintain a quiet, unshakable joy, even in the face of chaos. The joy of simplicity. Another key aspect of the Stoics' quiet joy is the appreciation of simplicity. In a world that constantly urges us to accumulate more wealth, more possessions, more status, the Stoic finds joy in living simply and focusing on what truly matters. Seneca reminded us that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. The Stoic finds joy not in abundance, but in moderation and contentment with what is already at hand. This does not mean that the Stoic rejects wealth or success. Rather, they do not see these things as essential to happiness. The Stoic understands that external wealth is fleeting and unstable, while inner wealth, self-mastery, virtue, and tranquility is lasting and within our control. The joy of the Stoic, therefore, comes from appreciating life's simple pleasures, from being grateful for what they have, and from living with integrity, rather than chasing after the superficial. The joy of connection. Finally, the Stoics' quiet joy is deeply connected to the idea of shared humanity. Stoicism teaches that we are all part of a greater whole, that we are connected to one another and to the universe itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." The Stoic finds joy in contributing to the common good, in living a life that serves not just the self but the larger community. This sense of connection brings a profound sense of purpose and meaning to life. The Stoic understands that their joy is not separate from the joy of others. When we act with kindness, compassion, and justice, we not only improve the lives of those around us, but we also deepen our own sense of joy. This shared joy, this recognition that we are all in this together, is what gives Stoic joy its quiet, enduring strength. Conclusion: the steady flame of Stoic joy. The Stoic's quiet joy is like a flame that burns steadily, even when the winds of chaos and adversity blow. It is a joy that comes from within, born of self-mastery, acceptance, and living in alignment with nature and virtue. It is a joy that does not depend on external circumstances, but flourishes in simplicity, resilience, and connection to others. This is the joy that endures through suffering, through hardship, and through the constant change of life. And as we cultivate this quiet joy within ourselves, we not only find peace amid the chaos of the world, but we also become a source of calm and strength for others. This is the true Stoic joy, a joy that is constant, resilient, and deeply rooted in the heart of a life well lived. A call to action. In the Stoic tradition, philosophy is not just a theory to be discussed, it is a way of life that demands action. The Stoics believe that wisdom without practice is meaningless. Knowledge of virtue must be lived, embodied, and reflected in our daily actions. This is why the Stoic philosophy is fundamentally a call to action, an invitation to transform our thoughts, behaviors, and lives. It is a philosophy that does not simply encourage reflection, but calls us to act with purpose, strength, and clarity in a chaotic world. Action over mere thought. One of the greatest lessons Stoicism offers is that real change and progress come from consistent action, not merely from intellectual understanding. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of Stoicism's most prominent figures, emphasized this when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is not a call for theoretical debate or for endless contemplation. It is a direct appeal to live the philosophy, to demonstrate through your choices and actions what it means to live with virtue and integrity. It is easy to get caught up in overthinking, pondering ideals, reflecting on abstract truths, and waiting for the perfect moment to act. But the Stoic rejects this hesitation. Instead, they embrace the reality that the present moment is the only time we ever truly have to act. Epictetus reminds us that the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. This also applies to ourselves. Our own actions must constantly call forth the best version of who we are. Embracing responsibility. The Stoics' call to action involves taking full responsibility for our own lives. This responsibility is twofold. First, we must take responsibility for our actions, and second, for our reactions. We do not control the external world, but we always control how we respond to it. Stoicism teaches that every situation, no matter how difficult or unfair, is an opportunity for us to practice virtue. Whether we are faced with hardship, injustice, or even tragedy, we have the power to respond with wisdom, courage, and self-discipline. By taking responsibility, we stop blaming others or circumstances for our unhappiness or failure. Instead, we understand that it is our perception and response that shape our experience. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This shift in perspective empowers us to act with resilience and composure, no matter what life throws our way. Courage to act in uncertainty. The Stoic call to action also demands courage, the courage to act even when the outcome is uncertain or unfavorable. In a chaotic world, we often hesitate, waiting for the right conditions before we move forward. But the Stoics understood that perfect conditions rarely exist, and waiting for certainty can paralyze us. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, Marcus Aurelius reminds us. This strength is the courage to act with wisdom in uncertain times, trusting in our ability to navigate whatever consequences may follow. The Stoic does not wait for life to be easy before they take action. They do not wait for fear to subside or for doubts to disappear. They act in the face of uncertainty, knowing that action itself is what dispels fear. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free in embracing action." The Stoic embraces freedom, the freedom to live fully, without being bound by fear, doubt, or hesitation. Acting with virtue. At the heart of the Stoic call to action is virtue. For the Stoic, the goal of life is not to achieve wealth, fame, or comfort. It is to live with excellence, guided by the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Each action we take should be in alignment with these virtues. The Stoic strives not just to act, but to act rightly, in accordance with nature and reason. Wisdom guides us to make choices that reflect understanding and discernment. Courage allows us to act boldly, even in the face of fear. Justice demands that we act with fairness and integrity, treating others with respect and honor. And temperance reminds us to act with self-control, avoiding excess and maintaining balance in our desires. When we act with these virtues, we fulfill the Stoics' highest aim to live in harmony with nature and our own rational nature. Turning thought into practice. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus spoke of philosophy as a training ground for action. He did not see Stoicism as an intellectual exercise, but as a way to train the soul. Philosophy for him was practical wisdom, meant to be applied in every moment of life. He emphasized that we must take the lessons we learn from philosophy and apply them through deliberate practice. Consider the analogy of an athlete training for a competition. Reading about techniques or watching others perform is not enough. The athlete must train their body and mind through consistent practice. In the same way, the Stoic must train their mind to act with virtue through consistent practice. We must apply the lessons of Stoicism in the small moments of life, practicing self-control, patience, and resilience in daily interactions. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, shaping us into individuals who act with integrity and wisdom, even in the most challenging situations. Creating a legacy of action. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoicism's call to action is the idea that our actions shape our legacy. We are not defined by our intentions or thoughts, but by what we do. Every action leaves an imprint, both on the world and on our character. The Stoic understands that their actions today will ripple into the future, influencing others and shaping the course of events. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the legacy of his actions as emperor, knowing that he would one day pass, but that his example would endure. In his meditations he wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." This is not a call for grandiose achievements or fame, but for a life lived with purpose and principle. By consistently acting with virtue, we leave behind a legacy of wisdom, strength, and compassion that inspires others long after we are gone. On the power of collective action. The Stoics' call to action is not only personal but also collective. Stoicism teaches us that we are all part of a greater whole: humanity, nature, and the universe itself. Our actions affect not only our own lives but also the lives of those around us. This is why the Stoic strives to act not just for personal gain but for the good of the community and the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." This means that we must consider the impact of our actions on others. True Stoic action seeks to uplift, support, and benefit those around us. By acting with justice, compassion, and integrity, we contribute to the collective well-being of humanity. This shared sense of responsibility and purpose creates a deep sense of connection and fulfillment, a joy that comes from knowing our actions have contributed to the greater good. Conclusion: stepping into action. The Stoic guide to happiness does not lead us to passive reflection or mere contemplation. It calls us to step boldly into action, to live with purpose, courage, and virtue. It invites us to take responsibility for our lives, to act with integrity even in the face of chaos, and to cultivate inner joy through consistent practice. In a world full of noise, distractions, and uncertainty, the Stoics' call to action is a reminder that we always have the power to act with wisdom, no matter the circumstances. This call is not just for the heroic or the few, it is for all of us. In each of our daily decisions, we are given the opportunity to act with virtue, to contribute to the common good, and to create a life of meaning and fulfillment. The time for action is now. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Let this be the guiding force in how we move through the world with strength, clarity, and purpose. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching until the end. It shows your commitment to growth, resilience, and mastering your mind in a chaotic world. I truly appreciate your time and focus. If this video has inspired you or helped you in any way, consider giving it a like and sharing it with others who may benefit from these teachings. Together, we're creating a stronger, wiser community. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.